Welcome to Life Stories, where a wedding turns into a reckoning and a single sentence shatters everything. You're too poor to marry. Those 5 words stopped a heart, silenced a church, and opened the door to a truth buried for decades. This isn't just a story about love and betrayal, it's about identity, legacy, and what happens when the life you've built is based on lies you never knew were told. One woman, one altar. One moment that rewrote everything she thought she knew about herself, her family, and the man standing beside her. Stay with us, because the heartbreak is just the beginning. Let's go back to the morning it all began. The scent of lilies clung to the air, sweet and suffocating, as Emily Carter stood frozen in front of the altar, her carefully stitched white dress trembling ever so slightly. Her fiancé, Ryan Prescott, hadn't touched her hand since she arrived. That alone was enough to rattle her. But it was his eyes that sealed it, cool, distant, like he was staring at a stranger. "I can't do this," he said, his voice calm, almost clinical. "You're too poor. This was a mistake." A gasp rippled through the pews like a wave crashing against stone. The silence that followed was almost reverent. For a beat, no one moved. Not even Emily. She blinked. Once. Twice. Her breath caught in her throat. And then the whispering started. Satin-clad shoulders turning, cameras lowering, sympathy blooming too late in too many eyes. Ryan stepped back from her as if her poverty were contagious. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but her voice had vanished. Her legs felt rooted to the marble beneath her feet. The place he had chosen for their wedding, the majestic St. Helena Cathedral in the heart of Pacific Heights, now felt like a mausoleum for all her dreams. It wasn't until the ancient wooden doors at the back of the cathedral burst open with a booming echo that anyone dared to move. Heads whipped around. A man stood silhouetted in the archway, tall and commanding in a midnight suit that whispered money and power. Silver hair swept back from a lined, chiseled face. He looked like he belonged on the cover of Forbes, not inside a crumbling love story. Flanked by 2 security agents, he walked slowly down the aisle as if he owned every step. And when he stopped just below the altar, his eyes, icy blue and unmistakably familiar, locked onto Emily. "Hello, daughter," he said, and his voice rang out like a verdict. "It seems I'm just in time." Someone in the audience audibly dropped a phone. Others began murmuring. Emily stared at him, stunned. "Daughter?" Her lips parted, but no sound emerged. Her mother, Karen Carter, gasped from the second row and gripped her husband Dan's arm, her complexion drained of all color. Emily had never seen this man before. But something about him, his eyes, the precise tilt of his jaw, unlocked a memory too old to be trusted. A photo she wasn't supposed to have seen, a name she was never supposed to hear. Jackson Reed. Tech titan, billionaire recluse. The man who'd built Reed Technologies from a garage in Palo Alto to a global empire. The man Karen Carter had once called a ghost from another life and never spoke of again. "Why are you here?" Emily's voice cracked as she whispered the only question she could form. "I've been searching for you for 25 years, Jackson said gently, "and today I finally found you." Behind them, Ryan turned slowly, his jaw slack, pupils dilating like a man watching a train derail in slow motion. In that moment, Emily understood something gut-deep and terrible. He hadn't rejected her because of who she was. He'd rejected her because he thought she had nothing. But now he was doing the math. She wasn't just a preschool teacher with a studio apartment and student loans. She was Jackson Reed's daughter, and that made her worth billions. The cathedral descended into chaos, voices rising, guests standing, some beginning to leave while others hovered in fascinated horror. Emily didn't move. Her heart beat like war drums in her chest. Karen rose shakily and approached Jackson, her eyes glassy. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, barely audible. "Not like this." "You made that decision for both of us when you took her," Jackson replied, his tone steely. "You vanished, changed your names. I respected your choice for a long time, but she's an adult now. She has the right to know the truth." Emily looked between them, her mind a kaleidoscope of memories, fragmented, swirling, suddenly suspect. "Is it true?" she asked her mother, her voice razor thin. "Did you run from him?" Karen opened her mouth, then closed it. It was more complicated than that. It always is, Jackson said with grim finality. Ryan stepped forward, suddenly smiling, suddenly contrite. Emily, he began, I think we should talk. In private. She turned to him, her expression hollow. You think I'm worth something now, don't you? He had the audacity to look wounded. That's not fair. No, she said quietly. It's not. None of this is. The whispers around them were deafening. Emily saw a dozen phones aimed at her face, recording the drama, dissecting the headlines before they were even written. But through the chaos, one emotion cut through. Clarity. Her entire life had been shaped by absence. A father who was a ghost, a mother who lived in half-truths, and a fiancé who loved her only under conditions. And now? Now the ghosts were walking. The truths were shattering. The conditions had expired. She took a shaky breath and looked directly at Jackson. I want to know everything. He nodded once, solemn. Then come with me. Let's talk, somewhere quiet, away from all this noise. And as she stepped off the altar, no longer the bride, no longer the victim, Emily Carter took the first step toward becoming someone entirely new. What would you do if you discovered your entire past had been built on lies? Can a legacy built in secrecy ever lead to something honest and real? The second chapter begins not with a vow, but with a decision that will unravel everything. Emily didn't remember walking out of the cathedral. One moment she was standing beside the man who'd shattered her heart. The next, she was in the back seat of a sleek black SUV, the city blurring past the tinted windows like streaks of oil paint. Jackson sat beside her, silent. There were things to say, questions demanding answers, but the words lodged somewhere behind her ribcage, too raw to speak. The silence between them was not awkward. It was thick with something older than time, grief maybe, or guilt, or the unbearable weight of truth finally knocking on the door. They arrived at a penthouse overlooking the San Francisco Bay. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows revealed a skyline lit like a constellation. Inside, everything was polished, minimal, and quiet, eerily so. Jackson poured them both a drink, though Emily barely touched hers. You live alone? She asked. He nodded, settling into a leather armchair. I did. I suppose now that may change. Her fingers curled around the cool glass. Why now? Why today? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into a drawer and pulled out a worn envelope. 3 days ago, one of my investigators sent this to me. A clipping from a local news piece about your classroom. Your kids planting a community garden. You were in the photo, laughing. Emily's breath hitched as she recognized the picture. She hadn't even realized it had been published. I didn't know where you were for years, Jackson continued. Your mother? She made sure of that. I thought I'd missed my chance. But when I saw this... He looked up, eyes damp. I knew I couldn't wait another day. She stared at him. You didn't try hard enough. The words escaped before she could stop them, and they hung in the air like smoke. Jackson flinched but nodded. You're right. She stood, pacing to the window. The city sparkled below, unaware of the girl who had lost everything and found nothing she could trust. I don't know who I am anymore, she whispered. You're Emily, he said softly. You're my daughter. She turned to face him, her voice sharper now. Am I? Or am I just a new piece on your corporate chessboard? The question landed hard. Jackson's expression hardened, not in anger, but in defense. This has nothing to do with business. Then why were there cameras at the cathedral? Why did people know your name before I did? He hesitated. Because some people watch everything I do. Because I'm not just a man. I'm a symbol to some, a threat to others. And now you're part of that world. Emily felt a chill move down her spine. I never asked for this. No, he said, voice low, but it's yours now, whether you want it or not. She crossed her arms, her instincts coiled. So what happens next? You put me in a press release? Parade me in front of shareholders? Jackson stood, walked to a cabinet, and returned with a small wooden box. He handed it to her. Inside, carefully arranged, were photos. Dozens of them. Some she recognized, school events, track meets. Others she didn't know had ever been taken. A 7-year-old version of herself in a Halloween costume, her first violin recital. How? she whispered, her fingers trembling. I've had people watching. Not in a sinister way, he added quickly. I just needed to know you were okay. She stared at a photo of her with her mother, laughing in the park. You had people tracking me. I had people trying to find you. I didn't know where you were until recently. His voice cracked. Do you have any idea what it's like to miss your child's life in fragments? Emily's throat tightened. Do you have any idea what it's like to never know why your father disappeared? He didn't respond. They stood there facing each other across a room built on money and regret. The sound of her phone buzzing broke the stillness. She glanced down. A message from Ryan. I'm sorry, please talk to me. I didn't mean it. She silenced the phone without a second thought. But her heart didn't settle. Because as she stared at the man claiming to be her father, and as her past collided violently with her present, she realized something terrifying. She didn't know who to trust. And worse, there was something her mother still hadn't told her. Later that night, back in her apartment, Emily opened the storage box her mother had left her when she first moved out. Inside was a journal, a simple leather-bound notebook with pages yellowed by time. She'd never read it, never had the heart to. But now, something told her the answers she needed weren't going to come from Jackson. They were going to come from the woman who had spent 25 years hiding the truth. What would you do if the people you loved most had built your life on a lie they believed was protecting you? The pages of that journal hold more than memories. They hold a secret that will shatter everything Emily thought she knew. Don't miss what's coming in the next chapter. The journal smelled faintly of lavender and dust, her mother's scent. Emily sat cross-legged on the floor of her apartment, the city lights outside painting her walls in soft golds and silvers. Her fingers hovered over the first page, hesitating as if opening it might unseal a wound too old to bleed. She flipped it open anyway. The first entry was dated 2 months after her birth. Today, Jackson missed her first laugh. He was in Zurich, finalizing a merger. He called during lunch, and I told him about it. He sounded happy but tired. I could hear other voices in the background. He promised to be home by Friday. He wasn't. Emily swallowed hard and turned the page. Each entry was a delicate balance of love and sorrow. Her mother had adored her, documenting every milestone, every scraped knee, every school project, but always with an undertone of something else. Isolation, resentment, fear. Then came the night everything changed. He threatened to take her from me today. The words were underlined twice. I told him I was overwhelmed, that I needed help. He told me I was being dramatic. When I said I might go back to work part-time, he said that's not what good mothers do. Then he mentioned lawyers. He said if I couldn't prioritize family, maybe custody needed to be reevaluated. Emily's heart sank. She remembered the cold fights her mother never spoke of, the late-night pacing, the whispered phone calls behind closed doors. I packed 2 bags while he was at a conference in Singapore, took cash from our emergency fund, changed our names the day we crossed into Texas. I became Karen Carter. She became Emily. She stopped reading. The air felt too thick to breathe. It hadn't been about spite or greed. It had been about fear. Her mother had run because she believed she had no choice, because she'd seen a future where Emily would become just another asset in Jackson Reed's empire. And now, Emily had been dropped into the very world her mother tried so desperately to keep her from. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Jackson on the threshold, coat still wet from the Pacific drizzle. I shouldn't be here this late, he said, but I had a feeling. She nodded slowly and stepped aside. Inside, she handed him the journal without speaking. He read a single page, then another, then closed it gently. I said things I shouldn't have, he admitted. I was young, ambitious, and blinded by everything I thought I was building. I thought power made me invincible. I didn't understand how easy it was to become the villain in someone else's story. Emily sat across from him, her voice barely above a whisper. She was scared of losing me. She thought you'd win. He met her gaze. I would have. Back then, I would have used every lawyer I knew. She closed her eyes, a wave of quiet grief crashing over her. And now? I don't want to win anymore, he said. I want to be part of your life, on your terms, or not at all. The humility in his voice broke something open in her. You've missed so much, she said. You missed my childhood, my prom, the first time I got published in the school paper. You weren't there when Mom lost her job and I got a scholarship we thought would never come. You missed me growing up. He nodded. And I'll carry that for the rest of my life. They sat in silence, not as father and daughter, not yet, but as two people holding pieces of a shattered past, unsure how to fit them back together. Finally he stood. I'm flying back to the island tomorrow. The press conference is canceled. There's no announcement, no legacy handoff. Not until you're ready, if ever. As he reached the door, she asked, What were you like before all this? He turned. I was a boy who wanted to build something so no one would ever leave me. And in the process, I drove away the one person who mattered. She nodded. Good night, Jackson. Good night, Emily. The door closed with a soft click. Weeks passed. Emily returned to her classroom. The press died down. The whispers at the cafe faded. Ryan stopped calling, finally understanding what silence truly meant. Jackson sent letters instead of texts, handwritten ones. He included stories from his past, books he thought she'd like, photos of the island. Once, he sent a childhood drawing of hers he had somehow kept, a stick figure with big blue eyes and the words "Me and Daddy" scrawled underneath in red crayon. She didn't respond right away, but on a quiet Sunday morning with rain tapping gently against her window, she called him. I want to visit, she said. You'd be welcome. The island was not what she expected. It was less fortress, more memory. A place designed for someone who had lost more than he could bear. They sat on the beach one night, fire crackling, the ocean humming around them. I don't know if I can ever see you as my father, she said honestly, but I think I'd like to try. Jackson nodded, his voice thick. That's more than I ever hoped for. The moon rose higher, silvering the waves, and for the first time in a very long time, Emily didn't feel like she was missing something. She felt whole. Not because of who her father was, but because she had chosen finally to understand both halves of her story. And in that understanding, she found freedom. How did this story make you feel? Which part stayed with you the most? Comment 100 if this story moved you. Where in the world are you watching from? Tag a friend who needs to hear this story. And thank you for watching Life Stories.